controversy.
Here at the Beaumont City Health Clinic, where many people in the county come to be treated for venereal diseases, the number of reported syphilis cases has risen dramatically compared to last year.
Recently, we've had about a 90% increase in the number of infectious syphilis cases in Jefferson County. This is over the past year. We're only talking about a total of from roughly 7 to 14 cases per month. We think part of the decrease in syphilis or the increase in syphilis cases is because it's only been within the past year that the State Health Department has provided a full staff to interview people and to run the different reactor reporting programs, and we feel this is part of the reason we've been experiencing an increase.
Chernow explains that it's a case of the harder you look for something, the more you'll find. However, with the increase of syphilis cases, there has at the same time been a corresponding 10% decrease in the number of reported gonorrhea cases, and health officials aren't sure exactly why. Chernow says that 35% of all syphilis cases in Jefferson County are reported by private physicians. The rest of the cases that come into the Beaumont and Port Arthur health clinics are people who either have symptoms or are called in by clinic staff members who know the person has made contact with someone with the disease. The majority of those that have syphilis are between the ages of 16 and 29. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
If you haven't noticed, these signs have been up for several weeks now. They are located at 5 feeder road exits on Interstate 10. The signs say Accident Investigation Site, with arrows pointing to where they are. So what does all this mean, you might ask?
The signs were posted in several areas of the city in an effort to allow the Beaumont Police Department and their patrol division officers who investigate accidents to move accidents that might congest the interstates down off of the freeways to a location adjacent to the interstate and give the officers an opportunity to investigate the accidents a little more safely and away from the main flow of traffic.
Having accidents moved off of the highway was the idea of several local and state agencies. The Department of Public Safety, the Beaumont Police Department, and the State Highway Department played an important role in getting the signs put up.
State law does prescribe that if a vehicle is disabled in a traffic lane and yet can be moved, the individual should go ahead and at least move his car to the shoulder of the road before the police arrive in an effort to clear the lanes of traffic or whatever. And as soon as the officers do arrive on the scene, they will instruct the individuals involved in the wreck to move their vehicles on down off the interstates to a location where one of the accident sites are located.
All the signs are located within the Beaumont city limits. In fact, Beaumont is the only city in this area and maybe the state that is experimenting with this project. If it turns out to be a success, backers of this project say it could be implemented statewide. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News.
What do you do with a 25-foot sailboat christened Irish Mist, a seaworthy calf named Boots, and nearly 5 months of free time? Well, you sail to Virginia.
What started you out on this trip? Why this voyage to Virginia?
It's been kind of an odyssey that we've wanted to make for the last 5 years. We've talked about doing this.
So just like sailors of old, Renee Corliss and Captain Claude Smith set their sails on the open seas. With their ears constantly on the weather radio, they've left the South Texas coast near Port O'Connor with a sail of a lifetime.
It's not for everybody. It makes you feel very self-sufficient, although you're quite dependent on shore.
Dependent on shore for provisions, almost daily stops for fresh water and food, making new friends, and finding a way into town for ice and maybe a shower.
So where in Florida are you looking to go?
Well, see, there's Panama City right there.
How long are you estimating in your mind for this to take in theory?
Only about 5 days.
Really?
If the wind holds good, but...
Renee and Claude owned a sailing school near St. Louis, so they know the ins and outs of sailing. And they feel the ups of this cruise far outweigh the downs.
A fair wind, and offshore with just no land in sight, no bugs, no heat, and no pressures, no worries.
I'm sailing down the summer wind. I've got whiskers on my chin, and I like the mood I'm in as I while away the time of day in the lee of Christian Island. Tall and strong, she slips along. I sing for her a song, and she leans into the wind. She's a good old boat, and she'll stay afloat through the toughest gale and keep smiling. When the summer ends, we will rest again.
Boots has gotten used to the sailing life. So could many of us. Leslie Brinkley, Channel 6 News.
I've been living here 7 years, and it will not continue any longer. Emotion-laden statements such as that were in abundance tonight at a meeting between the Palomar Edition Citizens Organization and city officials in Port Arthur. Port Acres citizens have been fighting a 20-year battle to improve streets and drainage ditches. City officials were told that streets haven't been repaired, but rather makeshift solutions such as lime and sand have only compounded the problem. And one citizen presented a letter indicating that a petition requesting improvement was presented to the city in 1974, with no apparent result. City officials told the group that money for improvement is scarce, but the focus of residents is on their quality of life.
In every way, our cars, our homes, our furniture, our carpeting, you name it, we get problems. We have problems from all ways.
As one city official told citizens tonight, improvements to streets such as this would have to be made before September, so the chances are good that another summer will come and go in the 20-year battle to improve conditions in the Palomar Edition. But as Mrs. Batiste said, if God lets me live long enough, I'll be down at City Hall until something is done about it. At the Palomar Edition in Port Arthur, Scott Lawrence, Channel 6 News. Last night, Channel 6 was in Port Arthur at a meeting between residents of the Palomar Edition in Port Acres and city officials concerning improvements to streets and drainage ditches requested by citizens, requests that have been communicated since the city annexed the area in 1959. Today, we talked with Port Arthur Director of Public Service, Bob Bowers, who participated in last night's meeting. Bowers says it's unfortunate that development occurred before the city had annexed the area. Today, rigid controls would have prevented further development until the landowner had met city standards covering streets, drainage, and other areas. But Bowers says the city will take some action.
Yes, I can. We met with them at the Port Acres Fire Station last night, Wednesday, and we will report to the City Council this coming week on the requests that were made at the meeting by the property owners from Palomar. When the City Council receives this request, they will instruct the city manager and his staff to develop costs, to develop schedules, to develop methods of complying with their request, and the council will have the ultimate decision of determining how this work can be done and when it is to be done.
In Port Arthur, Scott Lawrence, Channel 6 News.
2 years ago, this same time in 1979, gasoline prices averaged about 80 cents a gallon, but the major oil companies reported a gasoline shortage, and you were left waiting in long lines to get a limited ration of fuel. Last year was a little better. Gasoline supplies were reported to have improved, and instead of waiting in long lines, drivers were going from station to station shopping for the best fuel prices, prices that averaged about $1.11. This year, oil companies are reporting an even better supply of gasoline, although the prices are even higher. According to the American Automobile Association, most service stations reported they were told to sell all the gasoline they could sell at prices averaging $1.37 a gallon. And worrying whether stations will be open this holiday seems to be a thing of the past. The AAA reports that more than 80% of the gasoline stations say they will be open for business and pumping gas this 4th of July weekend. And at least the availability of gas must be good news for a lot of people, because the American Automobile Association reports that the number of drivers traveling this holiday over last year's increased from 20% in Houston to 48% in some parts of the Golden Triangle. But that could also be bad news, because the Department of Public Safety is estimating that 44 people will lose their lives this holiday weekend. Officer Kirksey, why do you think there's going to be that many accidents, and what is the Department of Public Safety going to do to try to minimize those?
There's two different types of drivers that we'll have in the Golden Triangle. The local driver, of course, people that are going to the beach are always in a hurry to get there and in a hurry to get back, and most of the time they're going to have a drink or two. And of course, the driver that's traveling greater distances will try to maybe put too many miles into too short a time. We'll have everybody that's available out on patrol that normally say would have been off this weekend. They'll be out working, and we're going to try to cut down on accidents mainly by being visible and being especially watchful for people that speed or appear to be drinking and driving. We're going to try to hold the desk down, as you say, and if it takes a ticket to do it, then we'll do it. If it takes warning or something else, then this is what we're going to do. We're going to try to hold them down.
In Beaumont, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
If proposed Reagan administration budget cuts do go into effect this year, thanks to some older legislation, many Social Security and SSI recipients will still be receiving their benefits at least for another year, and they'll also be receiving a raise effective now. Retired workers over 65, disabled workers, and widows and children of deceased workers will receive an 11.2% increase with this month's check.
The present increase is based on a law that is already in effect in Congress. Possibly it was the 1974 amendments that made these automatic increases beginning with 1975. The way it was set up, when the cost of living, according to the Consumer Price Index, rose over 3%, the Social Security benefit would receive a like increase.
Roughly 63,000 recipients in the Golden Triangle will receive an average of $34 more, a total increase of 1.8 million. There is a suggestion to trim the benefits of students over 18 attending school full-time, and if proposed Reagan budget cuts are approved, they could be the only group affected immediately.
Some of the changes were scheduled or suggested to be put into effect as early as August of '81. Possibly in the area of students.
Nationwide, nearly 40 million Americans will get larger checks that will cost Uncle Sam $16 billion. Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
Making a grill fire will be a common occurrence this coming July 4th weekend, and there's a good chance that at least one time a gas can will be left open close to the flames. That means there's a good possibility that there will be a fire and someone will get burned. Here at Baptist Hospital, the burn treatment room is well equipped and stands waiting for those who might be careless while having fun. We spoke with 3 members of the Baptist Burn Unit team about the types of burns to be expected, especially right now. Otis Mormon, Director of Physical Therapy at Baptist, says there are 3 summer burns.
First would be the use of gasoline to start barbecue pits and fires, and then also the use of gasoline in starting lawnmowers after they have run out of gas and the motor's still hot. We see people that do this and they flash and they cause burns. Second thing that we're expecting, of course, this weekend is the firecracker and firework burns. We've already seen 2. And then the third summer burn that we're seeing now is the improper use of the car radiator system when it is overheated.
Mormon adds that when using gasoline, remember that 1 gallon of the fuel has the explosive power of 15 sticks of dynamite. Baptist Burn Team members have already seen 71 burn cases in the past 6 months. 15 of those were gasoline burns. Statistics show that Baptist Burn Center will probably be used at least 1 time this weekend, but Burn Team members are always hopeful that you'll use an ounce of prevention. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
Most people look forward to July 4th as a time for replenishing sagging minds and spirits, giving us renewed energy to meet the complexities of our modern world. But one Nederland man has found a unique means of escaping each and every day in his Freedom Machine.
The 1976 bicentennial van originally sold for $10,000, and owner Arthur Mason would probably turn several shades of red, white, and blue if he saw a similar van in his mirror as he rolled down the highway, because he says only 7 of the vans were produced. The wheels, following the inescapable red, white, and blue motif, have allowed Arthur to escape to the water-inspired wonders of Galveston and New Orleans, where the curious sometimes recite the Pledge of Allegiance to his van. A van today might conjure up the image of a playboy, tempting our souls with the promise of good times. So let's open the door and step inside a world belonging to Arthur Mason, a world filled with plush comforts, comforts that few of us enjoy in our cloned cars that are endlessly exported from Detroit. Arthur has even been offered a race car to extricate the van and its comforts from his grasp, but he's holding on tightly to what he sees as a piece of history.
Arthur, has driving this van made you any more patriotic than you may have been, being that it was made in the bicentennial year?
Well, I like the colors, and it got me back in history. You know, I think about history and the flag and all that. You know, in school I never did really care about history too much, but it kind of, you know, got me more interested in it.
In Nederland, Scott Lawrence, Channel 6 News. These are the sights and sounds of a revolution, the electronic video game revolution that's sweeping America in a sea of transistors and capacitors. But in Nederland, the call to arms has mesmerized Wayne McLemore. McLemore is bathed in concentration, fingers flexing furiously as he tries to break the world's record in Asteroids, currently the most popular video game in America. All eyes are on McLemore as he tries to accumulate 22 million points. He's already reached 20 million. Over $1,100 has already been pledged to McLemore, money he will donate to the Jerry Lewis Muscular Dystrophy Foundation. McLemore hasn't slept since 6:30 Friday morning, subsisting on grape juice, oatmeal, and last night a well-deserved steak. But the effort is obviously taking its toll.
Do you think playing this game as long as you have increases your mental abilities, or might it dull your senses after a while?
Oh, definitely dulls my senses. I'm reacting slower right now than I was yesterday morning. No question about it, but hopefully I can last it out until tomorrow.
McLemore has only spent 1 quarter thus far, his daughter's quarter. But after this, what next?
Lots of sleep, that's all. I don't have my sights set on anything else.
In Nederland, Scott Lawrence, Channel 6 News.
This was the unusual scene today at the 4th of July celebration at City Hall in Orange, Texas, where both young and old came together to form a special atmosphere that seems to manifest itself in memorable fashion during small town celebrations. Tantalizing aromas permeated the air, adding a flavor to the day's activities that captivated even the youngest participants. Skilled artisans plied their trade, creating wondrous scenes that blended in with the day's activities. Floating spheres transgressed both time and distance, descending through the metal cylinder. Even the most respected of figures in Orange discovered that, at least on this day, respectability evaporates in the onslaught of youthful arms, and it's a rather short drop into the depths of humiliation. All in fun, of course. Indeed, July 4th weaves a web of treasured memories in our minds, creating a spirit that makes us realize this is what life is all about. In Orange, Scott Lawrence, Channel 6 News.
People started arriving at the beaches at 7 o'clock this morning. By 10, this is what the beach looked like. For those who got a late start in getting here, it was a task finding a place to set up. The weather was pleasant for this holiday, so everyone could have a real celebration.
Let's all celebrate and have a good time. Celebration. We gon' celebrate and have a good It's a celebration. Celebrate good times, come on. Let's celebrate. We're gonna have a good time tonight. Let's celebrate. It's all right. We're gonna have a good time tonight.
Many of the people here will be staying overnight, and the beaches are expected to be crowded again on Sunday, weather permitting. Jim Oliver, Channel 6 News.
This morning was the first time county commissioners sat down to discuss the Federal Aviation Administration's request that the county airport tower be cut back from 24-hour service to 16-hour service. The FAA, in a letter to Judge Richard LeBlanc, stated that flight services during the hours from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. were very limited, that less than 4 aircraft operations were conducted each hour. Commissioners were unanimous in standing against the FAA request.
The court went on record this morning as definitely being opposed to identifying the federal government on any actions that might happen as a result of them closing the tower. And we also went on record as stating that we were not going to notify them as to what lights we were going to leave on because we wanted it left open.
The lights Judge LeBlanc was referring to are airport runway lights. The FAA had requested to know what lights would be left operating and which ones would not. The Aviation Administration also stated that $34,000 would be saved in their annual budget if tower operating hours were cut back. However, it is felt the cutback would be dangerous, since a Houston Control Center would be responsible for giving flight directions to incoming and outgoing aircraft during the 8-hour period.
I think that the county and the cities of the Golden Triangle should strongly oppose closing an airport for 6 hours. And the FAA will mandate a lot of things, and if you accept them, you live with them. And you're hurting if you close this airport for 6 hours.
8 hours.
For 1 minute.
Yeah.
Commissioners have asked their consulting attorney to draft a resolution of their remarks concerning the tower cutback and send it to the Federal Aviation Administration. They want the FAA to know that they do not want the cutback in hours to go into effect August 6th, as the agency has requested. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
Well, I don't foresee a lot of change. I'd like to investigate the possibility of improving service locally. I think the area is large enough to support more service than we're getting. Where to, I'm not exactly sure. I have to discuss it with travel agencies and, of course, other airlines to find out what their feeling is, where the tickets are being sold, where the ultimate destinations are, and then see if we can't work up some service for that.
City elections may be held again in Port Arthur within 4 months' time. Indications from the Justice Department look very favorable. In fact, the Justice Department says they will go ahead and recommend that the U.S. District Court approve Port Arthur's new voting plan.
They would recommend to the court this plan if we would amend it to where we'd have residence requirements for these 2 at-large councilmen.
So today, the city announced an amendment to the original plan they introduced last week. Now in its final stages, the voting plan looks like this. Port Arthur would still be divided into 4 single-member districts. Also, Councilman number 5 would be elected from a combination of Districts 1 and 4. Councilman number 6 from a combination of Districts 2 and 3. The mayor would be elected at large by all voters. And 2 more councilmen would be elected at large as well, except the new amendment would add residency requirements, meaning one of those at-large councilmen would have to live in District 5, another in District 6.
The city has been divided, might say, where you have a majority of blacks in one half and a majority of whites in the other half. And it will allow, I think, ample representation for the blacks on the council. And it'll give.
The big question is, when would elections be held? Well, the proposed voting plan would go before Port Arthur citizens for approval on August 8th. And if voters approve it, full city elections would be slated for this November 3rd. Do you have any aspirations to run again as mayor now?
Well, I probably will.
Port Arthur attorneys are going to go ahead and file an appeal to the U.S. District Court, but they're hoping that an appeal won't be necessary. They're hoping to make a formal announcement perhaps at next Monday's council meeting that elections will return to the city of Port Arthur. Leslie Brinkley, Channel 6 News.
He said, meeting adjourned, and he told me that I was out of order. And if this is out of order, freedom of speech, talking to, the people that we elected for our city officials, then I will remain out of order.
She's in violation of the decorum ordinance. I could have filed charges on her if I'd wanted to, but I didn't.
Well, according to her, she just said your name, Mr. Sadler, and
She did more than that. Now she violated the decorum ordinance. Sure.
What is the decorum ordinance?
That you don't use personalities when you're up here talking to the council, and she's brought in personalities and things. That's one thing we just don't put up with. We don't get paid for that.
Are you intending to file charges against her?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
It was decided earlier this year that low-income housing in Beaumont was minimal and something needed to be done about it. Thus came the creation of the Beaumont Finance Corporation. It, along with City Council and the private sector, decided to launch a new experiment, low-income housing for the poor.
It seems almost impossible to get any federally funded programs worked in that would provide the low-income housing because the cost of construction alone and the cost of money run them up too high. So we proposed the challenge to this task force to see what they might do without any federal funds. And they really were the ones who deserved a tremendous amount of credit because they came back with a workable plan.
The city has furnished the property, the housing units will be built by private developers, and the Beaumont Housing Authority will manage the complex once completed. 23 units will be built on this vacant lot, and 23 more once the school is demolished, for a total of 46.
It is now in the final stages from the standpoint of drawings and plans and specs that would go out for bid to the contractors and developers who would care to participate in the project. The development will take place on the Pipkin School site on Pine Street.
The units will be single-story 1- and 2-bedroom apartments with a courtyard setting. The mayor says construction of the low-income housing units could get underway in the latter part of this year. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News.
Channel 6 News has learned that at least one report of foreign acquisition of local oil refineries is incorrect, according to the American Petrofina Corporation of Dallas. Bill Cahill, a spokesman for that company, told Channel 6 today that Petrofina has not sold its Port Arthur plant, as reported in the latest edition of Forbes magazine, a highly respected business publication. However, Cahill did confirm that the Petrofina Corporation has signed a letter of intent to sell that plant to a newly formed group, the American International Petroleum Corporation, which is made up of Venezuelan and Swiss investors. Cahill also told Channel 6 that the reported sales price of $75 million is incorrect, although Cahill refused to speculate on what the final selling price might be for the 90,000-barrel-a-day refinery. Ironically, most oil sources we talked with today told us the only information they had received concerning these sales was what they had heard in the news. Reports, for example, that the Kuwait National Oil Company had purchased 50% of Hawaii's largest refinery for a reported $185 million. That an Arab group had bought a 52,600-barrel-a-day refinery in Port Neches from the Houston-based Independent Refining Corporation for $75 million, and that the Uni International Refinery in Corpus Christi was also sold to an Arabian group for $75 million. Concern over these alleged refinery sales has also sparked questions of what this new investment by citizens of OPEC nations in the United States oil and gas industry for the first time might mean to national security. And it's this question industry sources are saying is too early to be answered. In Beaumont, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
During their regular session this morning, Orange County Commissioners heard from Bud Mackey, business manager of the union that represents county employees. Mackey told the commissioners that the new personnel policy handbook is unclear and has left some things out.
There is no disciplinary procedures outlined, no grievance procedures, no union clause, no maternity leave. There's no guaranteed hours on call-outs for overtime, and there's no meals in there when they're working overtime. In other words, a person can work and so forth, and there's no overtime.
These things have already been adopted by the county?
Some have been adopted, and these are things that were basically just left out.
The commissioners reply, they are satisfied with the handbook the way it stands. We'll let you know if there's any further action on the issue. From Orange, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
A four-seater plane flying from Illinois to Houston crashed between 4 and 5 o'clock this afternoon, about 60 miles northwest of Beaumont, killing the lone occupant of the plane. Wreckage was strewn among a 1.5 mile area of trees, creeks, and high grass about 4 miles north of Vauta in southeast Polk County. Clyde Moore, whose home is near the crash site, saw the plane coming down.
I was on my back porch reading the paper, and I heard this plane in trouble, sound like, so I threw my paper down and got out in the backyard, and about that time I heard an explosion, and pieces of it came down. It was raining and wind blowing, so lightning, thunder. So I figured either lightning struck it or the plane just blew up.
The body was discovered in a clearing more than 100 feet from the cockpit by Darrell Stewart, a member of one of the search parties sent into the area. Stewart says his father told him to discontinue the search because it was unlikely the body could be found. According to a Livingston Fire Department official, there'd been no crashes in the area since 1946. But in the last 3 months, there have been 3 crashes. In southeast Polk County, Scott Lawrence, Channel 6 News.
Beaumont Mayor Maury Myers and City Council members at today's meeting agreed with the City Health Department. The L.M. Williams & Sons Ambulance Company should be suspended for violating the city ambulance ordinance. But they were split on whether that punishment should include suspending the Williams Company's ambulances from operating for 3 days. And with Councilman Tom Combs absent at today's meeting, a final decision on what to do ended in a tie.
I would think that we would be doing harm to the system if we do not go ahead and uphold not only the ruling but also the suspension. And that would be my motion.
I agree 100% that that suspension and the findings were correct, but only because I just feel like it would be our luck, our very bad luck, to experience something in the form of a disaster of some kind when we might want that vehicle on the street.
And I think that we need to set the precedent now, because no matter what develops in the future, ultimately we're going to have to say that if you're running the system, whether the city is running the system, that we want some assurance that you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're doing it in a way that the ordinance or the rules that are set up for you to operate, that you're operating by those particular rules.
It was finally decided that the decision would be put off until next week's meeting. And with Mayor Myers and Councilwoman Evelyn Lord both in support of allowing the suspension to stand, yet not actually taking any of Williams' ambulances off the street, and both Councilman Calvin Williams and Councilman Wayne Turner supporting the City Health Department's ruling that the company should be suspended from operating, it's clear that the key to this decision will depend on this man, Councilman Tom Combs, the council member needed to break this tie. In Beaumont, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
The street improvements are part of a $33 million bond issue that was approved by voters in the spring. This afternoon, the city accepted the bid of a Dallas bank to sell the first $20 million in street bonds.
They had the most favorable bid, and then these bonds will go out for sale, as the representative of Underwood Newhouse indicated, probably within the next 30 days. And then that money will be received, and we will commence, I think, with about 5 of the 12 projects that were included in the 1980 bond issue.
Some of the streets that will benefit from the improvement package are Dallin Road, Chin Lane, and Sarah Street. Dallin will be extended from its present location to College Street. Chin Lane will be expanded from this location to the East Tex Freeway. And Sarah will be expanded from here to curve around and meet 11th Street.
All of these are either creations of new thoroughfares or extensions of existing thoroughfares. The thrust was, of course, to provide north-south, east-west arteries in the community and get most of the citizens who have to use the interstate to move about the community off the interstate.
The mayor says if all goes well, expansion of these streets could be underway by the fall of 1982. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News.
Faced with the task of solving Vida's hazardous water and sewer situation, Orange County Water District officials and Vida City Councilmen held a workshop last night. What they came up with is an idea to form a new water district made up of the residents that are not already a part of the county water district. Estimates are that's anywhere from 1/3 to 1/2 of the city. Water district and city officials say that's the best idea around, at least according to representatives of the Department of Water Resources in Austin. A VIDA group recently went to the state capitol to discuss the matter. The first step in getting the plan off the ground is for a petition with at least 50 signatures to be presented to Orange County commissioners calling for an election. Voters would be asked if they wanted to form an additional water district that would be run by the residents and if they would approve a $480,000 bond issue. That would be to match an existing federal grant for construction plans. The total price tag for the water and sewer system is about $2 million, with Uncle Sam paying 3/4. The workshop proposal will be presented in detail to VIDA residents at this Thursday's City Council meeting. From VIDA, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
The fire started around 10 o'clock this morning at the Plymouth Village Apartments, number 38. The fire quickly spread to other apartments, causing mainly smoke damage. Beaumont fire officials say the fire was started by a 7-year-old child playing with matches. Hazel Reed lives in the apartment where the fire started.
All I remember, I was at the wash, staring water, and I came in the house. My little girl told me, my little boy had put the house on fire, and I went up and looked in the room. The whole room was always on fire. I couldn't even go in there then. And I just come back to the porch and I hollered for help and called the fire department. That's all I knew, and threw water in the house, and all I know.
How long have you been living over here?
About 5 years.
And what did you lose in this fire?
I probably lost everything.
Do you have a place to stay now?
No, I don't. I'm calling the welfare place right now, trying to get me a place to stay. They told me I could stay on in the Salvation Army tonight and tomorrow. I have to start paying, and I don't have no money.
The housing unit where the fire took place has 8 apartments, and all 8 families were told they had to move out because the structure was now unsafe. They are expected to be out about 3 months. Most of the occupants have large families and say they will have a difficult time finding a place to stay. As for Hazel Reed, she has 5 children and lost everything she owns in the fire. If you would like to donate food, clothing, or money, she can be reached at 898-7345. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News.
14 building jobs in a 10-county area have come to a stop. The local bricklayers union began picketing these jobs on June 1st. The strike is against Associated General Contractors. Basically, the bricklayers say they do not receive enough compensation for the work they do. But John Sargel, executive director of AGC, believes no additional pay is warranted, and he does not see an end to the strike in the near future. 8 meetings between the AGC and bricklayers ended in a stalemate, according to Sargel, and he stresses that the strike has already hurt the area economy very seriously. The Golden Triangle's Planning for Economic Progress Committee, or PEP, felt the strike was a serious enough threat to take the picket issue directly to the International Bricklayers Union. The International Union asked the local bricklayers to take down pickets, but the local union voted Monday night to keep the pickets up.
The International has given us a free path in settling our own differences with the AGC. And PEP, of course, is involved to the point, from a civic standpoint, with good reason, that it promotes the economic growth in the area, and we can't disagree with that at all. And anything that would settle the differences that we have would be welcome, really.
The local bricklayers are continuing work for contractors not associated with the AGC. But the continuation of the strike against the AGC means additions to area businesses will not be completed. Construction on the GSU buildings, Southwestern Bell, the Beaumont Auditorium, the Sheraton Inn, St. Mary's Hospital, and Mobile have all been stopped. Bricklayers tell us they are anxious to talk further with the AGC and get back on the job. Leslie Brinkley, Channel 6 News.
The increased number of felony cases in Jefferson County during the better part of the past 6 months is evident here at the county jail and here at the Beaumont City Jail. Burglaries lead the pack in felony cases, with forgeries, robberies, rapes, and murders following behind in that order. District Attorney James McGrath gives a breakdown of the felony cases committed since January.
The first quarter of 81 was a tremendous increase, I think 31%. The second quarter of 81 has been a decrease, which I hope will maintain itself. The beginning of the third quarter has shown an increase, which I hope that will abate itself.
And how much of an increase are we talking about in the third quarter?
In the third quarter right now would be about 15%.
At that rate, McGrath says there will be approximately 1,700 felony cases by the end of this year, as compared to less than 1,500 cases in 1980. McGrath says one reason for the felony case increase may be because the affluent area we live in attracts would-be burglars from other areas. To handle the excess number of cases, 2 grand juries were appointed recently. That's a first for the county.
We do have 2 grand juries, and we hope to get rid of this caseload. We can only actually handle about 30 cases a week with 1 grand jury. And when they felonies exceed that, we're falling a certain number of cases behind each week. So with 2 grand juries, we ought to be able to handle 60 to 70 cases, get rid of the backlog, and get on a more current basis.
McGrath also told us a 21% increase in drug-related cases has been cited in the county. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
With former Superintendent Dr. Frank Cudlady leaving to take a position in Waco, Dr. Dan McLendon was recently selected as the new top administrator from some 41 applicants.
I was born and raised in West Texas, graduated from high school in Odessa, went to Baylor University, got my BA there, started teaching in Corpus Christi, and got my master's at Texas A&I Kingsville. Was in Corpus Christi for 14 years. Left as assistant for administration. Went to the Texas Education Agency. Was a full-time employee there while working on my doctorate. Finished that at the University of Texas in 1977. Went to Richardson as Deputy Superintendent for Instruction and have been there 4 years.
This will be McLendon's first job as a superintendent. He says he's looking forward to the challenge that administrative officials should not only be leaders, but should help with the tasks, and that school districts should assume the responsibility of keeping their teachers up to date through in-service training programs. He'll go to work July 22nd. From Orange, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
One's first superintendency.
Over 300 Southeast Texas rice farmers gathered today at the Texas A&M Research and Extension Center just east of Beaumont for the 34th Annual Rice Field Day. Included in today's activities were tours of the rice fields, lectures, laboratory tours, and a barbecue. The Extension Center staff demonstrated techniques in breeding new hybrids of rice, combating rice diseases, and fighting weeds. Most of the rice grown in this country is exported, primarily to those countries with food shortages.
It's a fairly short season crop. It's a complex crop. You always have to maintain water and such. It's highly mechanized, but I think I can think of no better crop to be growing insofar as food production for the world or future production of rice. I think we're concerned about the amount we grow. I think we're lucky if we can grow enough to meet all the demands within the next 5, 10, 15 years.
The high cost of growing rice, combined with low prices at the marketplace, are threatening to put many Southeast Texas rice farmers out of business.
I think the price is ridiculous if you want to know the truth about it. I've been keeping up with the futures trading that's going on, just opened up, and so far the price is less than what we got last year. Of course, our expenses have kind of gone the other way, so it doesn't look too good right now for this year.
Farmers are hoping they can convince more Americans to buy and eat rice.
If we could promote, which we're trying to do, the rice market is trying to do, promote more use here in the United States. We export a tremendous amount of rice, where we're all growing it right here. If we could sell it right here, we would have less expensive exporting it, and would give us a higher price, I feel, right here in the United States.
From the rice fields near Beaumont, George Gattisa, Channel 6 News.
A Port Arthur City Council meeting at 9 o'clock this morning was called for a special reason: to set up an August 8th city election. State election laws require that an election be announced at least 30 days prior to the actual election. The city had let the announcement go right down to the wire, since it was hoping to hear a positive word from a federal court regarding the city's new election plan. So the city's called an election without knowing for sure if it will be able to have one. A decision on the proposed voting plan is expected tomorrow.
Originally, the court had scheduled a hearing at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon for the attorneys to be present and available to discuss and answer any questions and to present an explanation of the amended plan of the city that's being filed with the court. We have received word this morning that the court has rather decided to transact the inquiry of the attorneys by a conference telephone call.
If the court approves the new voting plan, and if the voters of Port Arthur also approve that voting plan on the proposed August 8th election, then all 8 council members and the mayor would be up for election this November 3rd. Following this special election, though, the 4 single-member district councilmen would be up for election on odd-numbered years, and the mayor and the other 4 councilmen up for election in even-numbered years. Things are all set to go in Port Arthur for an election. The Justice Department supports its voting plan, and an election's on the agenda.
It's been a long, drawn-out battle, and I think everybody's looking forward to an end to it so that elections can return to the city and city government can get back to doing business in a regular manner.
Leslie Brinkley, Channel 6 News.
Back in 1977, the District Attorney's Office went before the Jefferson County Commissioners Court and requested commissioners to seriously consider the employment of a county medical examiner and provide for an examiner's office. At that time and presently, death investigations and inquests are performed by county justices of the peace who may not always have the time to quickly perform those tasks. The justices of the peace also may or may not require that an autopsy be performed, leaving many cases not fully investigated. The issue of a county medical examiner was considered by commissioners in 1977, but nothing was ever done because of the cost involved.
Pat Hayes, chief investigator for the district attorney's office, still actively supports the idea of a county medical examiner. He says it would offer a more systematic and effective way of determining death and would speed the process of running down those who may be responsible for a person's death. With the present way of investigating deaths and performing autopsies, Hayes says valuable information is lost.
Of course, quite often we have problems in where autopsies were conducted that we were not able to obtain toxicology and sometimes some pathological results due to the delay in the time between the death and the autopsy procedures. With the medical examiner system, we think we would avoid most of these problems.
The Beaumont Police Department has also expressed a need for a medical examiner.
Lieutenant Charles Henderson says there are many times when a justice of the peace can't be quickly located when there's a death at the scene of an accident. And when there's a murder involved, the body may have to be sent to Houston's medical examiner.
Doesn't that set the police department back quite a bit in their investigation and trying to find out exactly what happened? I mean, the more time
Right,
passes.
especially where you've got situations where you need to determine the cause of death. There is a delay when you have to send a body to Houston for an autopsy to be performed.
Okay, would that also place you behind in your investigation and maybe trying to track someone down who maybe actually committed the murder?
It's very possible, very possible.
Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
Most of us have fond childhood memories of bumpy school bus rides punctuated with laughter, songs, and close friendships. One Beaumont man is responsible for seeing that the most precious of cargo, children, arrive safely to school each day with notebooks crammed full of rich memories. South Park Independent School District Director of Transportation James Clodio spends the hot summer months inspecting the district's 42 buses, none of which are kept after 10 years or 100,000 miles, hoping to prevent overheated engines and the resulting hot tempers by correcting the problem before it occurs. Rows of 15, 25, and 72-foot buses glisten in the South Texas sun, awaiting a fall roll call that Clodio feels proud to reside over. Can you explain the safety record of the buses as long as you've been here?
Excellent. I've been here 16 years, and I think that our record will hold up with anyone in the state of Texas. And you can, check and see, and I think you'll find that that is true.
Okay, in your job, do you feel any added responsibility because you're dealing with the safety of children every day who ride buses?
Absolutely. I haul the most precious cargo in the world. Your children and my children. So I don't have to answer that because that's the most precious cargo in the world. I don't care, be it oil, gas, or what. When you haul my children and your children, that's the most precious cargo in the whole world.
Scott Lawrence, Channel 6 News.
Well, we're in the very rudimentary stages of the technical work. We've got the board of directors, a steering committee formed. We are now starting to meet with the property owners. We're starting some of our basic field work to identify hotel, restaurant, eating, drinking, tenant possibilities. And we're beginning to examine the engineering aspects of some of the traffic improvements that we've initially proposed, which have been well received within the city. And we see no technical problems in carrying out those traffic improvements, and there seems to be no financial difficulty in implementing them. We feel at this time that it's important to continue to put out to the community the importance of their cooperating with this odd-even approach.
That was July 9th last year when record high temperatures and a shortage of rain pushed Beaumont's water pumping system to its limits. City officials were forced to ask you to conserve water by voluntarily complying with an odd even day watering schedule. But as L.S. Lee explains, this year's water situation has improved dramatically.
Well, this time last year I was treating 965,000 gallons an hour, as much water as I could per hour with what I had to work with, considering the age of equipment and so forth. And right now, our rate of flow through both plants is 620,000 gallons an hour. But it's a lot more relaxed work atmosphere when it's not quite such a maximum usage.
Beaumont's present waterworks system has a pumping capacity of 33 million gallons a day. Last year, water users came within about 2 million gallons of pushing that system to its peak capacity. But this year's outlook is said to be a lot brighter due to improved weather conditions and conservation-prone consumers.
It looks to me like if we can make it through the next month and a half, we've got pretty smooth sailing from here on out.
In Beaumont, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
This is Annie. She's about 18 months old and just 2 weeks ago began swimming lessons for the first time in her life. After just 9 days of classes, Annie is becoming a daring young diver and swimmer. She and the other babies in the Mommy and Me classes at Lamar University have learned to paddle, breathe underwater, and with just a little more work, most will learn to swim to the surface as well as their older counterparts.
They don't know how to kick or that they can even come up. They'll fall in that water and just freeze and drown, and you never know when they're just going to step into a pool.
Teaches them to know how to at least survive.
Right. You've got to be patient with them, real patient. And some parents, I've had parents forcing, especially little boys, forcing them to swim, to be like their daddy. And they just, if you start forcing them, they start reversing. They won't do it.
Like I say, I have an open mind on it. I'm not convinced one way or the other, but when you talk about spending over $500,000 with the budget problems that we have, you know, trying to balance the budget, and it's one of the things that are on some people's wish list.